Hi, I'm Monumente Reme, Icheb from Star Trek Voyager and the executive producer of The Circuit Urbiesa, and you're listening to Kneel Before Pod.
Kneel Before Blog presents Kneel Before Pod.
Hello, and welcome to another super secret edition of Kneel Before Pod. I'm your host, Craig McKenzie, and it's time for us to take you back into the Marvel Cinematic Universe to talk about Marvel's Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Season 5. The show went on a brief hiatus recently at the conclusion of the opening arc of the season, and we're here to talk about it. Joining me at the cheaper end of the Marvel Cinematic Universe is Agent Chris.
Hello.
Hello. I
Hello.
guess that makes me Director Craig.
Director Craig. Assistant Director Craig.
Assistant Director? I don't know.
Yeah. Well, you know, the proper director of S.H.I.E.L.D. always gets demoted and thrown out, and there's always some
Or
random that gets
horribly.
put above you. Yeah. Or murdered horribly. So I think you want to be assistant director.
Yeah, or
Or one of the many brothers, Craig.
that's also possible.
Like a selection of multiple Craigs, because there's no way that one Craig could possibly get all the work that the Craig I know gets done.
You've uncovered my secret. Damn it. Now
Yeah.
you must be killed.
Oh, right, okay. I
Just-
totally don't believe that, honest.
Just watch out for prams the next time you go out. Death by pretend child. That's how
Okay.
I do it.
Well, yeah, there's worse ways to go.
Well, a lot worse. Better, but worse.
I could have balls thrown in my face,
You could. Or, I don't know. All sorts
and
of
not the usual fun kind.
Whoa. Almost have to bleep that.
Dodgeball I'm talking about, obviously.
Ah, okay.
What the hell were you thinking about?
Things I would have to bleep.
No. It's not Natalie you're editing.
No, that's true. But she's due to crash in any time now. Hi, I don't watch the show. Please tell me.
Yeah,
what
so
you're talking
what happened this season?
Tell me what happened ever since season 1.
Yeah.
Oh, no.
I saw the first episode. What's happened since that?
Oh, that would be horrible. As far as I know, Natalie's not cameoing in this podcast, although she does have access to the TeamSpeak server, so there's no reason why she
Yeah.
wouldn't just turn up.
Hello, Natalie, if you're listening. Please feel free to gate crash podcast, because I've not seen you in ages. Hiya.
Yeah. Which she
There we go.
won't be because it's Agents
Reasons.
of S.H.I.E.L.D. and probably doesn't watch it. But anyway, we do. We watch Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., which 5 years ago some people would have laughed at us for, and now people still laugh at us for it, but we don't care. So, I've been watching since the beginning. Have you been watching since the beginning?
Yes, I have. Because originally, when it sort of popped up on Channel 4, it was running sort of concurrent with the US, really. It was like a day after or something, I think. And it got quite a bit of PR when it first launched. So, yeah, I've been watching since the start.
And what have you thought since the start? Were you on the very much this show is crap bandwagon, or had you a more reserved opinion?
I at first thought it wasn't as good as I hoped it would be, and then it was only by the sort of mid-season-y reveal, once it tied in with the events of Captain America.
Winter Soldier for
The Winter Soldier film. Once it tied into that, you could kind of understand why it had went into a holding pattern for a number of weeks, because its key developments were essentially, you're not going to get to see any of this yet, we can't show this yet, we can't do anything yet, what do we do? Or we do another episode where we sort of skirt around the issue for a bit. And then suddenly it was there, and I thought the latter half was quite good, which has been almost a staple of S.H.I.E.L.D. seasons, strangely enough, that the first bit hasn't quite been as good, and then it ramps up towards the end into something quite interesting, which I think the mould is kind of broken with this one. Maybe it'll be good throughout, I don't know.
Maybe. I've always liked the show in one way or another. I mean, season 1 wasn't especially strong, especially in the beginning. It was better in the second half, kind of once Civil War kicked in, and well, they tanked the premise of the show if you think about it. It's like, we're doing a TV show about S.H.I.E.L.D. Oh, S.H.I.E.L.D. no longer exists. Oh. Yeah, I think some of the cast were apparently annoyed about that. The fact that you've just killed our show. But they didn't, because we're here 4 years later, and it's still on, somehow. I've always liked it. I like the characters. I like Coulson. I like the way they changed things up a bit. The Ward character, when he was about, was particularly interesting. The way he kind of flip-flopped throughout all the seasons. Bobby, when she was around, was good. It got better as it went on, and I think once they stopped trying to name-drop the MCU every week, it got a lot better. You know, where every week there'd be so I was saying to Tony Stark, you know, it's like that conductor at that show we were at on Friday that no one wants to know about.
Jokes that you don't get unless you were there. But yeah,
we were at a Music of Star Wars show. It was pretty good, and the conductor was a serial name dropper. That's all you need to know. So that's what Coulson does in this show. Where he's like, so I was saying to Captain America, it's like, no, you weren't. He doesn't talk to you.
Yeah, they all think you're dead. It's it's one of those. I kind of agree with you, actually. I think once they decoupled a bit from the MCU, it was given room to breathe. I don't know if the writers were kind of tied in with, oh, you've got to have them in London for the end of Thor: The Dark World, doing this clear up at the beginning of that episode. And
that's what they're doing. It's cleaning up crap.
They were literally brushing up in London, and it was all sort of previewed as coming up. They're going to be, you know, in the next episode, tied into Thor: The Dark World. See Thor: The Dark World, and you won't understand a thing going on in next week's Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. And then you watch it, and they're just brushing up in London. You're like, I pretty much would have got that.
This could have been done by any S.H.I.E.L.D. team.
Yeah. They get the best S.H.I.E.L.D. team in with their mop and broom to tidy up after Thor. But it was, I feel that there was little bits where they were like, oh, right, we've got to mention what's happened in this film now because this film's happened. And once they kind of went, right, we're going to just pretend the other universe doesn't exist, pretty much.
Yeah, although there's some good little references. Like, for instance, when it's Coulson's team that get a hold of the information that leads the Avengers to Strucker's base in Age of Ultron. Like, you don't need to know that to make Age of Ultron work, but it's a nice little bit of detail. And it gets you a bit more Maria Hill, which is always good. You know, where she showed up in, I think it's 3, maybe 4 episodes she's turned up in now.
Yeah, I think it's nicer when they do it on the smaller scale. They don't do the blatantly obvious.
I've had a helicarrier in my basement for a couple of years. What? that Age of Ultron twist where Fury turns up with a helicarrier, one thing I was thinking was, where did he get that? And thankfully, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. has the answer, whether you like it or not. No, when Nick Fury has something, I'm like, that's fine, he's Nick Fury, he's got it. I don't need to know how he got it. He's Nick Fury.
It was the rolling line of Nick Fury's secret bases that I particularly loved. Was, oh, we're in one of Nick Fury's secret bases. And then they're like, oh, base is destroyed. Where are we going to go now? Well, have no fear, Nick Fury's new secret base. It's like, there's a whole line of them. I really do hope that if they reveal stuff coming up to Infinity War that Captain America has been hiding in yet another one of Nick Fury's secret bases around the world.
He's like a buy-to-let property manager. Just can't ever have too many secret bases.
Yeah,
the rent premium's off the chart these days. Just gotta keep those secret bases going.
Just in case your other secret base that is secret from the other secret base with the secret base next door is definitely secret.
Yeah, but they all have a built-in. What's his name? Koenig.
They've got their own Koenig, and they've all got a roof that can retract far enough to fit in a massive spy plane thing. You know, a Boeing jet can land inside.
Yeah, it's useful. Definitely very useful.
Yeah, these aren't small secret bases. These are very large secret bases.
Yeah. And you could do worse by having your own Patton Oswalt, like cleaning up, washing the windows, although there are no windows because it's a secret base. They've got like these weird, Back to the Future 2 style vistas, that are projected onto a screen that give you the illusion of outside. So that's all good. Although I think they're most recent base, before they got arrested and stuff, was an old SSR base, which is, pre-Shield, which is Agent Carter type stuff, which is quite cool. I don't know, it's all sorts of little references to the MCU kind of, and the Marvel Comics exist in these little things. They did they did the hidden barbershop thing, where they sat in a chair and then they got lowered down into a secret base underneath. All that good stuff. I've liked this show since the beginning. I mean, I've kept watching it, even when I wasn't necessarily enjoying it fully. I was always getting something out of it. I think at times its humour is a bit off the reservation. It's not hugely funny most of the time, even though it was trying to be, and I think early on it suffered from too many jokes, but they've kind of tempered that somewhat in later seasons. Sometimes too far in the other direction.
Yeah, I think sometimes you hit the nail on the head there a little bit, is that they do sort of go, oh, we're going to go for the funny bone for this one, and then, oh, we've got to try and go serious again. Oh, how do we change gears? Oh, we can't clunk. And it doesn't quite gel sometimes. Other times they hit it bob on and it's a good laugh. The show is kind of the definition of hit and miss, because there can be episodes in amongst amazing episodes that are not that great. There can be other ones that really stand out. I find it a right mixed bag a lot of the time. Yeah, and it's done good by its characters as well. For instance, Fitz and Simmons couldn't stand either of them for pretty much the entire first season. Wanted them both to die horribly. Unfortunately, they wouldn't. They just kept coming. And eventually they got to the point where they developed them to the stage they're at now, where I think they're some of the most interesting on the show. So, good work there, turning the annoying characters into some of the best. Yeah, no, definitely. I've always had a soft spot for Fitz and Simmons, but like you, I agree, they have come along a lot far away in the recent seasons. Tell you, Ward showed great restraint by not murdering them in the second week. Because I would have. I'd have been like, I know I'm playing the long game here as a Hydra agent, but I'm just going to kill these guys. When I turn, you will be the first to die. Yeah, that's it. Yeah, and then you'll be second. So yeah, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., we're not in the hater camp, which is good, because we're not here to hate on a show. We don't seem to hate on anything on these podcasts. We kind of nitpick, but we don't hate. Listen to the Inhumans podcast for why Craig is not being truly serious. Hey, I was trying to find good things to say about it. You didn't try hard enough. It didn't try hard enough. That's another thing Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. does. It does better by Inhumans. They managed to do more in a single episode than Inhumans did in 8. Mm-hmm. And that's not their central premise, so good work there. They gave us the Inhumans, which weirdly have never been mentioned outside of this show and the Inhumans show. There's no MCU film that's ever mentioned Inhumans, which is a bit strange. They're just ignoring it. They're like, nah, that's not. Just pretend they're not there. Yeah. Unless they turn up in Infinity War, because let's face it, everyone's in Infinity War. Except the Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. cast. Except the Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. cast, the Defenders, or the Inhumans. Yeah. Or the Runaways. Oh, the Runaways, yeah, they're not allowed there. If Professor X turns up and Deadpool, then we'll be fine. It should be okay, yeah. So, Season 5. We're on the 5th season, which is amazing. And they went to space. Because, as one of the characters said, it's the one thing they haven't done yet. I loved that line. Yeah. That's space. Not a spoiler. It was in the trailer. Yeah. Space. I suppose we haven't done that yet. Yeah. I liked that, yeah. Yeah. So, without spoiling the first half of the season, what did you think of this arc, this outer space arc? I liked it. I think there were elements of it that I found a bit strange, and I'll go into that once we go into the spoiler section. But overall, I actually really enjoyed it. Because it being set in space, it was kind of a bit different. It got you away from a lot of the sort of political storylines that you've had in the previous season, where it was like, oh, we're against S.H.I.E.L.D., we're not against S.H.I.E.L.D., we've got all this subterfuge and everything. It kind of got into a good sort of escape plot, really. So I think it sort of flourished a little bit by being set the way it was.
Yeah, it was a very bleak setting for reasons that we'll get into once we descend into spoilers. And visually it could be a bit dull because it is another procession of dimly lit corridors and kind of greyish, brownish backdrops. Although some amazing CGI to make up for it, which is interesting. It was as I said, it was completely different to what anything they'd done before. It tested the characters in interesting ways. It built a mystery very well that kind of still has us guessing by the end of it, which is nice. So it's not clear how the rest of the season's going to go yet, but there's a lot of little hints here and there as to what might happen. So I'm encouraged. I don't know if it's been the show's best first part of the season or not. I mean, I guess I'd have to think about what the other seasons did, and I can only think as far back as Ghost Rider last season, which I thought was awesome. I loved Ghost Rider, but I can't think any further back than that, really. So, yeah, we'll say it's one of the best first arcs. So, without spoiling anything, I don't have much else to say.
I also have very little to say before the spoiler section.
Cool. Are we ready to just head into that spoiler section? Go through the monolith into the spoiler section.
Oh, is that how we're getting there? I wondered how we were going to get there. Okay,
Yeah,
through the monolith it is.
It doesn't have a distinctive noise, but
It just kind of sloshes around, doesn't it?
Yeah, pretty much. So, monoliths. That's how they get around in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. So that's it. Through the monolith we go. Now we have entered the spoiler section. It's very strange here. It's very dark. It's full of giant aliens that we call roaches. It's not pleasant at all. Obviously a TV show lives or dies on its characters. What do you think of how they handled the characters in this part of the season? The core cast were made up at the beginning of Coulson, May, Simmons, Mac and Elena, and that was it. Or Yo-Yo, whichever you want to call her. When I'm reviewing it, I call her Elena. I'm very much a proper name sort of person when I'm reviewing stuff.
How very formal of you.
I know. But so there was almost a reduced cast because the first mystery was, where the hell is Fitz?
Yeah, I mean, well, the first mystery was, who's here? Who's here and where are they? Which I quite liked, because for the first episode, pretty much, you're trying to figure out, going, who's there and where's that person and have they all made it? Has people arrived ahead or behind, or it was it was really good how they sort of split them all up from the very beginning. So it was they're sort of discovering the world at the same time as you are.
Yeah, I think it did that really well in the first episode, where you learn at the same pace as the characters do, and all the kind of reveals are at the same time the characters are learning them, which is good. And I think they managed to avoid exposition quite nicely. You have all these characters who are saying things without just explaining the plot to you or explaining the situation to you. They all live there, so they don't really feel the need to fill anybody in on it, but they'll answer like some questions. What's going on here? And it's like, well, you're just here. That was a roach, and like, what the hell's a roach? And it's like, oh, well, we don't have time to explain that. But it kind of, it gives you information, drip feeds you information in a way that feels like you're getting enough, but without expositing it to you, which I always hate exposition, because it's just, let's sit down for 5 minutes as I tell you everything that's going on. And that's something that Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. was very guilty of in the beginning as well. Show don't tell is one of the first rules of writing, and they seem to have got the hang of showing you stuff rather than telling you stuff. At least for the most part.
No, I think the early reveals were all handled pretty well. I liked the fact that they sort of split people up, put them outside their comfort zone. You had, May appears and she's sort of impaled on a bit of piping, which was just, looked absolutely horrific. But she manages to sort of soldier on in the way that she does. Coulson sort of being separated out by himself. It was good. It's it was a nice sort of arrival to it, because obviously all you'd been left with at the end of the last season was the little teaser with Coulson waking up in an asteroid field.
Yeah, which turns out to happen in like the third episode.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the reveal that, of course, it's Earth. You know, they're actually just on Earth in a space station. Well, I suppose it's an Earth station. Or it reveals later it was kind of built inside the Earth, but once it cracked open, it was a space station that kind of surrounded by the destroyed remnants of the Earth, which may or may not have been destroyed by Daisy, which is interesting. Not Thanos. Daisy.
Yeah, definitely not Thanos. Yeah. That'd be brilliant. Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. massive spoiler for Infinity War. All this time, people have spent waiting for Infinity War. It turns out Thanos won, cracked the Earth in two. Roll amazing, credits.
They didn't bother to mention the Avengers at all in the first part of the season. Like, they were never mentioned. You know, what happened to Tony Stark? Who knows? What happened to the Avengers? What happened to all these people? No one seems to care.
Yeah, Earth was destroyed and none of them cared. They all flew away with the Guardians of the Galaxy to go kick ass somewhere else. Yeah, they
were all off fighting Thanos on some faraway planet, and then they got back and it's like, there's no point in trying to defend the Earth.
Yeah,
some stupid Inhuman destroyed it. Oh. So this is what happens when the Avengers take a coffee break.
Yeah, but on those strong foundations, we shall build a new Earth. Oh, no.
Yeah.
As long as the foundations are good.
Yeah, I thought that was a cool reveal because it comes with the fact that they're in the future, which you later find out is about 75 years in the future, which is, again, interesting. But an earlier episode, I believe it was season 3, I think it was 3, established that in the MCU, at least as far as we know, time is unchangeable. So once they had that Inhuman who could see the future, once someone saw their future, that was just what was going to happen. There was no way they could change it. So in that season, you were just building up to those things happening rather than trying to prevent them. But this season, they've got an inevitability that they may or may not be able to stop. I mean, obviously they will, because then you have no Marvel Cinematic Universe, and I don't think they're going to let Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Destroy the Earth. They'll be like, "Yep, that's life now. That's what you get for that's what you get for torpedoing our show and with the Winter Soldier.
You destroy our shield, we destroy your planet. That's your move, MCU." Yeah, I mean, I loved the reveal. First of all, oh my God, we're not just in space, miles and miles away from home. Home has been completely obliterated. It's not that we've jumped years into the future and we can just go back home and be sort of fish out of water, living in the future. It's we are gone and home is completely eradicated. It's split in two. I thought was a brilliant reveal, and part of the charm of it is I'm all sort of discovering it at the same time, and it's beginning to run up, and you start to try and guess it, and you're like, oh, it's going to be the Earth, isn't it? They're already there. There's something wrong with the stars. What's wrong? Oh, it's in the future, and Earth's gone.
Yeah. And then the central premise builds itself around the time loop. As in they're stuck in this time loop that just won't ever change. And it starts with them coming to the future, and then ends with them returning to the past to then cause the future. But it's been kind of confusing about that in some ways, like the episode where you see some flashbacks to the end of the world, or the aftermath of the end of the world. I kind of thought was an alternate timeline where they never got sent to the future, and it was what happened. But then they have confirmed the fact that they do go back in time and then cause all this stuff, and which is quite interesting, because again you've got this whole physics of it. The future is the future; it's fixed; it can't be changed, and everything they seem to be doing is heading to that point as well. So now, obviously, I don't think the Earth's going to be destroyed. I mean, that's just, you just can't do that. But so ultimately, the timeline will have to be changed. But how? And how do they go against their pre-established rules in order to make that happen?
Yeah, this will be the one time that they break the loop. I don't know. The hint that you get at the end of this is that Coulson is partly the reason, or at least that's what sort of Yo-Yo or future Yo-Yo suggests, that it isn't in fact Daisy you need to be worried about, it's Coulson.
Because he's dying and has to be allowed to die or something. It's all pretty cryptic.
Yeah, it's like the fact that you try and save Coulson somehow then splits the Earth in two. I don't know. It either means that they're leading up to evil Coulson, who then does something that then somehow splits the world, or I don't know.
Where he's got his nasty rash that seems to be killing him.
Yes.
God knows where he got that from.
Yeah, maybe the big death monster things that were going about towards the end.
Maybe. It's like in the Lost in Space film where Smith gets scratched and then he turns into a spider.
Yeah, that's true.
I've just referenced the Lost in Space movie, which has got to be
You deserve 10 points for that, I would say, if we're keeping a scoreboard of Neil Before Pod strange references in the middle of things. I think Lost in Space getting in there is
not just Lost in Space, the movie, the one that no one has ever seen, or people that have seen refuse to admit that they've seen it, except me. Hey, I'm the guy that wasn't shy to admit that I liked Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. when it was in its first season, so whatever. Like, no shame here.
No, I watched it. I'm not. Yeah.
Yeah, so Coulson's out of his element because he just doesn't know what's going on. May is injured, which apparently was covering up, or not covering up, it was making use of the fact that the actress was actually injured in real life. So they just wrote it out of the story.
Ah, that I didn't know.
Yeah, I sort of skim-read an article the other week that mentioned that. It doesn't really add anything, but at the end of the day it gave May something different to do, because she couldn't rely on being kick-ass all the time. Just most of the time, but not all the time.
Well, it gets rid of the character's strength, sort of the literal strength, but also the fact that, that's what she is useful for, flying and being kick-ass,
Yeah.
If you get rid of that, then, she's sort of left out on the limb a little bit.
She's just the future mother figure for a little premonition seeing girl.
Yeah, that was a weird development, and I do you know what? I kind of like it. I could see May doing that after watching sort of the couple of flashbacks and things. I was like, do you know what? Yeah, that would be a development for that character. I mean, the thing is, you're watching all this going, well, this is the time that they break the loop, and that doesn't happen, or does it? Inadvertently happen. She still becomes her mother in a way, but not in this dystopian future that we've got. Yeah,
well, they still haven't cleared up what the old... Is it Robin? Yeah, it's Robin. She has the little Robin thing.
Yeah.
What the old Robin said to May that might allow her to change something. They still haven't revealed what was whispered. Although, the implication was that it was find Flint or something like that.
Yeah, find Flint, he can pull the bits back together.
Yeah.
That's it, I'm off.
Now I must die before I can tell you anything else that might be useful.
Yes.
Yeah. Typical. Just typical. But yeah, May as a mother figure, it's kind of counter to what you would expect. And it's almost redemptive as well, because she obviously killed that child way back in, I want to say season 3 as well, when they did the flashback to the cavalry background story, where that human was awakened and she had to kill the kid because it was too dangerous, and that haunted her ever since. So her raising Robin, or being a mother figure to Robin, is the redemption for that. Which has to come sometime, I suppose, and there's still time for that to happen again, so I think that'll play out massively in the coming episodes.
I think it's something that will still happen. I think there's an inevitability to some of the things that have been predicted here, and even if the core of the Earth isn't shattered into tiny pieces, I think they will still keep some of the developments that you've seen.
Yeah, and I hope if they do diverge the timeline, which they will, I hope we get to see glimpses of the other timeline, because I think the flashback episode didn't do enough to give you a picture of what's going on. I mean, it did this little thing about Simmons is going to die, where's Coulson? What happened to Mac? But it doesn't answer any of those questions.
No, and it was very quick, the sort of glimpses you were getting. I'm sure if you were to go through sort of frame by frame or something, you'd be able to glean little bits and pieces from it. But they've purposefully shot and written that in a way that allows them flexibility if they want to do anything else.
Yeah, I'm wondering if they were just planning off a couple of characters over the next few episodes as well. I mean, it looks like Simmons and Coulson and Mac are certainly up for the chopping block at this point, but whether they survive or not, I mean, it's all up in the air. We don't even know if it's getting a 6th season, so anything could happen.
Well, the usual thing is a bit of a bait and switch, though, isn't it? In the future, you show one character dying, and then it turns out it's someone else that's going to die when they change the timeline. You know, they do that quite a bit.
Yeah. Plus, as Fitz and Simmons both establish, they have no luck, so something will stop their engagement or stop them from getting married.
I well know what these long engagements can be like.
75 years.
These long engagements.
Yeah, Fitz and Simmons, the relationship is... I think it's probably it feels more real than any of the other relationships we've had in the show, because as a couple, it's not like every scene is devoted to them being a couple. They just kind of are, which I quite like. And I always hate this. Let's draw attention to the fact that these pair are in a relationship, and you have those moments because couples do need to have those moments, but they're also just part of the cast as well. So it feels like a very real and very adult relationship for me.
I think so. I mean, they're characters that they put together at the very, very, very beginning. And I don't know if this was ever the outcome that they wanted, but it seems to have developed very naturally through the way that they've been put together and the situations that they've been in. So I'm happy to see them developing as a couple. I think Fitz's sort of solo episode, for want of a better thing, was one of my favourites, actually. I really liked it. I think it was a bit of relief after being in the sort of space station, the lighthouse, for all that time. It was kind of nice to go, well, where is Fitz, or where has Fitz been, and how did he get there, and what was going on in Earth during this time? And it was a great episode, and I think it gave that character a really good chunk of development. Yeah.
I always like kind of off-format episodes in shows like this, because every episode, even though they changed the format up, each episode did have that format. They're in space, they're trying to solve the problem, they're trying to deal with the Kree. That was the formula of the season. And then you have this episode that's almost like an old-school episode of the show, where you have the characters doing something, although it was only one of them, and then two of them. Bringing Hunter back for that was excellent. I always liked Hunter, and it was great seeing him back after his quite emotional goodbye a couple of seasons ago.
Mm.
And the fact that Bobby wasn't there was handled quite well, as in we got sick of each other again and we're taking a little break. So that's exactly what would happen with those two. Fine.
Yeah, and that's the way it works best, kind of thing. And I like that. I thought it was neat. Just the Fitz prison break was kind of a thing for the whole season's essentially been a prison break, or the whole mid-season anyway has been a prison break, and then to see it happen on a micro scale with Fitz, I think was good. It sort of worked out, and I was like, oh well, obviously he's writing. Who would be a character reading a football magazine, or a soccer magazine for the Americans? Who would it be? And of course it would be. So I thought, good to see him back.
Yeah, it was. I wonder if he'll come back in the next half of the season. I hope so.
And I would hope so. I mean, he's now rocking about in a Shield jet, so you'd think so.
Well, someone has to put the Zephyr in the place that it needs to be for the. Oh no, they don't, because in the flashbacks they're flying the Zephyr. Yeah, and Hunter's not there. Don't know why. Obviously, Bobby couldn't be around because she's also flying through space, although not in the same show. I'm surprised they didn't make a reference to that. So I don't know where she is. She could be in outer space for all I know. Ha 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 ha. Hilarious. The Orville, in case people don't know. She is the first officer / wife of Seth MacFarlane in The Orville, which got to be one of the most dazzling displays of wish fulfillment I've ever seen in a television show. I'm going to star in this TV show that I write, and I'm going to cast this obscenely attractive woman as my wife. Job done. Or ex-wife.
So when are you starting to write your space-based sci-fi show?
Oh, I'm already thinking about the first line.
Considering the first line, yeah.
One of my twins is going to do it. No, one of my duplicates, or whatever they are.
Your many duplicates, yeah.
My many siblings.
Yeah, Fitz, I think, was one of my favourite characters he's been one of my favourite characters from pretty early on, actually, but I think he's been given a lot of development in this. I liked how he just suddenly sort of turned up out the blue at the end of that episode. Nice surprise. The relationship with Simmons, I think it's developed really naturally, really well. I think she was given a little bit more to do this season in a way.
Well, she spent a lot of it standing around silently.
A lot of it standing around silently, but at least she was given a role. I don't know what she would have done otherwise if she'd been filming. I was kind of worried that they were either just going to kill her off, or she was going to be left just sort of going, "Oh, I will try and work the technology stuff," and didn't. It sort of put her out in a limb and took an asset away from the team. I see why they did it, but I like the little sort of thing where he stands there trying to propose, essentially, and she can't hear him. I like that a lot.
Yeah, and her being in that position kind of harkens back to when Director Mace was kicking about, where she was trying to climb the corporate ladder as quickly as possible to find out as much as she could. So Simmons' strength is from listening and paying attention and getting a read on the situation that way, which is what she thought she'd be able to do in, as one of Cassius' little woman and man slaves. But then he took away her ability to hear, which knackers that. And then she's just stuck there, being unable to hear anything, or see, and just dealing with blurred vision the whole time, and just standing around looking pretty, which is possibly a reference to current political movements or anti-movements. I don't know. Does everything have to be about Donald Trump? I suppose it does.
Donald Trump thinks so.
Yeah, that's true. So later on in the season, it's only 10 episodes long, but so far. But she does get a bit more to do once she gets out of that position. The episode where she helps the young Inhuman see her power, or get used to her powers, was very good. Just this little girl who just didn't know what she was doing, didn't know how to control her abilities, and Simmons helps her do that. And then it results in her getting sold off into slavery. It's like, oh, great.
Yeah, no, it was another one of those sort of how brutal and rubbish is as well. You're like, well, at least they're treating the Inhumans a lot better. They're getting sent away to study and such. No, they're going into slavery. Oh.
Yeah. And that episode does more with an Inhuman character than the Inhuman show did in the 8 episodes. Which is it just shows you how ineptly plotted that show was versus this one. And they did some other good stuff. The Ben character, he was good. The one who could read minds and was also kick-ass martial artist. Who was essentially, what's his name? I'm blanking on his name. The Inhuman, the marijuana farming Inhuman. I forget his name.
Oh yeah, that one. It wasn't Gorgon. It was the other one.
Yeah, the other one. Aye. I need to look this up now. Karnak.
Oh, there you go.
I didn't even have to look it up. Look at that. Time-skipping editing wasn't needed there.
Honest.
Yeah. So he's basically Karnak because he can read people's movements and then counter them. So they did a better job of Karnak than Karnak did, which is ridiculous. Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. should not be a better Inhumans show than the Inhumans, but it is.
No, I thought he was done really well. I sort of like the fact that they managed to convince him, by sort of, I'm not thinking happy thoughts, but sort of they're going, please don't tell anyone, please don't tell anyone we know each other, please don't tell anyone we know each other. Yeah. sort of worked out. It was a shame that the character got kind of taken out, but yeah.
He served his purpose, though. It wasn't this,
that's true.
Yeah, like, that's one thing this season so far has been about. It's economy of characters, where it's just, okay, we don't need this guy anymore. There's no point in paying for him to stand around the background anymore. Off with his head, practically. But although I don't know if you actually see his head severed. I think he does die, though. Which is what it is. But the way he and Daisy had different views on, on the whole slavery aspect, as in they were both against it, but he was resigned to it. There's nothing I can do about it, and she's like, yeah, there is. We can fight back, and it's like, no, the only reason we're alive is because we haven't fought back. Everyone's just kind of beaten it to submission, and that's what the whole prophecy of the Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. is supposed to be about.
Yeah, I mean, it's everyone's sort of been taken down a peg. I mean, that's the one. I'm going to say the one thing I don't understand, but there's a few bits where you're sort of like, how did the world get to this point without there being a proper uprising, or an uprising where people could stand up? Because they don't make it look easy, but it almost comes across as such. It's unconquerable odds up until now, where it's all working. Yeah, it's all fine. We can take everyone down now. We've got an escape plot. It's fine.
Well, they had the wrist thingies and the implants that suppress inhuman powers, so everyone was pretty screwed, all told.
But they also had the machine that can remove the implant thingies.
I don't think they actually had that early on.
Well, they had it down in the guy that they get not sold to, but sort of trade themselves for in order to get an implant put in.
Yeah,
has a machine that can take them in and out. That's how they get them out towards the end. They're in his workshop and they take them out using the machine he used to put them in.
But then
so they did have a machine that could take the implants out.
But then he kept that machine. He was very much in the pocket of Cassius and so on.
Yeah, I suppose so.
Yeah, the thing is, the Kree are pretty overwhelming in terms of numbers, and they've built in like population control, as in they grow their own kids to turn into humans and all this stuff. So it's pretty bleak. I like the Kree. Seeing the Kree all blue and strong, that was cool. And them tying back the whole their blood has resurrection powers for other species was interesting as well. The fact that they used that a couple of times, like to bring Tess back, and with future Elena, she was like killed and resurrected like a lot over the 75 years, which is again bleak, grim, and horrible to contemplate.
A brutal way of doing it. I mean, I thought when Tess was brought back that they had brainwashed her in some way as well, but it seemed like they had just brought her back to life. It was like, yeah, they had brought her back to sort of convince them that Cassius was a god, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, I liked Tess, and when she was killed I was disappointed because I thought she had a lot more to give. I really liked her scene with Coulson and whatever the first episode she appeared in was, where they go into her room and it's full of all this tat from the past. And it's a lot like Coulson's office on the first plane. You know, it's full of like old school collectible stuff. So it's almost like she's similar in a way, and they can bond over that. There was more they could have done with that. I think her kind of idealistic, looking at the past for inspiration type personality, but they didn't do anything with it, and they just kind of killed her and then resurrected her.
It was a lot of characters to introduce. It was a lot of bringing in new stuff that you're going to be with, and I think that underserved some of them, and she was definitely a character I would have liked to have seen a little bit more of.
Yeah.
And I was the same as you when she got killed. I was like, oh no, I actually quite liked her, and then I was glad when they brought her back. It was good.
I would have liked to see a little bit less of Deke.
Deke had good episodes and bad episodes. From his introduction, I thought, oh, this is the low-budget version of Star-Lord.
And complete with the helmet.
Complete with helmet and everything. It was one of those like, oh, they've put a not quite Star-Lord in here. And yeah, he was... I didn't understand the betrayal much I get that they had to find a way of getting Daisy captured and doing all that, but his betrayal simply for a coin kind of thing didn't wash with me. The excuse he gave didn't wash. They didn't return or revisit his sort of little virtual world thing that he was running, his little racket. That's how he was earning his keep.
Yeah.
And they sort of visit it once. Daisy sort of pops in once, and then there's no mention of that again for the whole thing. I thought that was going to tie in at some point, and they just seemed to forget about it and move on.
Yeah. His sacrifice was good, though. I think that was earned because they'd done a bit of work on his parents, and they believed in this prophecy that was actually just... Well, it was a prophecy in the sense of it was telling the future, but it was actually just telling the future, so it all depends how you interpret it, I suppose. But the fact that his parents believed in it and he really didn't, and then he was faced with this opportunity to prove himself, and he kind of rose up to the challenge and sacrificed himself as he needed to. And the whole idea that he started seeing what good people really were. There was that conversation I had with Daisy when he wouldn't let her sacrifice herself, and he was like, the world needs people that can do nothing but be good. There's also the bit about where he holds a gun and says, "You shouldn't have one of these unless you're a really good person."
Yeah, I like that. May sort of quit back, going, "Oh, there should be a law about that." Yeah, I thought it was very, very neatly done. He had a few good lines. He had some really good scenes. He had bits that were great, and it was just, a character of two halves, really. Sacrifice at the end, I think, kind of won him back. Whether we will see him again or not, considering he was there in front of a bit of the monolith, is to be seen. But I think the character will pop up again if we're going for some prediction things.
And I wouldn't be surprised if he turned out to be a descendant of Fitz and Simmons or something like that.
Oh. There you go.
I don't think it'll be the case, but it's not impossible.
Yeah, why not? But, I think we will see him again. If there's one of the characters that's transferred over, I think he'll pop up. They'll wait a good few episodes to make a surprise appearance, but I think he will crop up somewhere.
And I quite like, they obviously established that there might be an inescapable time loop, but the thing is, the loop is essentially broken depending on what perspective you take, because you see Tess and Flint with all the survivors, and the lighthouse is being dealt with. Cassius is dead. There's a real chance to fight back and survive, and the implication that Flint can put together the entire Earth, which is a bit much, I think, but whatever. It's a hopeful future. But the idea that even if this timeline does happen, there is hope that it continues. It continues in a more positive light.
Yeah, I don't know. I hope it's not the last we see of them. It probably will be, but I like the idea that Flint's maybe going to try and pull something back together. I don't think the whole Earth is possible, but you can imagine that they could do a really good landscaping job.
Yeah.
But
it's like the flat earthers are finally right.
Yeah, I like that. But he might be able to do something. I don't know.
Well, we will likely never find out.
No, I don't think we will. But the idea, I suppose, is that even if they fix the timeline in the next loop, this is like a separate future that will continue on. The future where they didn't succeed. Yeah,
could happen. I don't know, but I just like that it has that kind of they managed to free all the humans. It wasn't that they just forgot about them and ignored them. It's like a better version of when the Flash did you know what, I'm going to change this timeline, but I'm going to bring together the team anyway, just because, for something to do. And, I'm here. It feels earned because they had to help people in order to get to where they needed to be. Like, they couldn't have got back to their own time without helping everyone out. And there's also the fact that Mac has pretty much tunnel vision when it comes to these things. Where he's like, I see people in trouble, therefore I must help them. I don't give a crap about your changing the timeline stuff. I'm just going to help these people.
There was a little bit at the beginning where I'm like, why do you keep doing all the wrong things? Let's make ourselves really obvious. Let's let's just start killing everyone, and let's make it really obvious that we don't have these little bracelets on that everyone else appears to be wearing. Oh dear. And then that's it, they're just sort of standing there going, oh, and half of us have been captured, and half of us are split up, and the other half are sort of slaving away on this ship. Brilliant.
I really liked the episode where Daisy was trying to get down to save Simmons, and she was just creatively trying to defeat Kree and find her way down and things like that. I really love the bit where she's in the elevator and she's holding on to the ceiling, but kind of bracing herself with her arms and her hands and her feet. And then there's two Kree standing in front of her and she slips a bit and says, "I really thought that would work," or something like that. It's a shame you don't get to see much of Daisy's funny side very often, as that often, which is a shame because it's, like I've just said, the actress is very funny. I've seen that in interviews and stuff. She's a very, very funny person, and it's a shame that I keep saying that word. It is a pity that the Daisy character doesn't get to be more prone to levity, like she was when she was called Sky.
Yeah, well, she's been given a few tough storylines, good storylines, but tough storylines for the character. So it would be a bit jarring for her to be cracking jokes. But I like you say, I did like the few gags that she got this season.
The way that she saw May as a mother, you'd be the stern curfew before 9, and whatever, no TV before 9, whatever type mother. That was good, just the delivery of that. But obviously she has to deal with the fact that she might have the power to destroy the world, which she says she's not that powerful, and I'm inclined to think that she ain't that powerful. There'll be something else at work, because it's very careful about not telling you what actually happened. It's this was the last anyone saw of her, and the next thing you know, an earthquake ripped the world apart. Yeah,
there's a lot of assumptions in there, and it's, like I said earlier on about, sort of showing that some characters aren't there or are maybe dead or whatever. I always think it's a bait and switch type thing. As soon as they said, "Oh, Daisy destroys the world," I was like, well, we can now guarantee that it's not Daisy that destroys the world. It's obviously going to be something else, and either Daisy was there to try and stop it, or, it ends up happening.
We all know what really happened. She runs off to fight Thanos. It's no, he's not here yet. He'll be here next month. But right now we have this world-ending threat to take care of that the Avengers don't seem to give a crap about.
The final Infinity Stone was hidden in the middle of the planet, so Thanos ripped it apart to find it. That's what happened.
Absolutely. Although they keep bringing up the gravitonium, which is way, way old school in terms of this show. Third episode was where it appeared, where they introduced Dr. Franklin Hall, who becomes the villain called Graviton. He's essentially Magneto, but with gravity.
Gravitonium has got to be next to unobtainium of obvious names, hasn't it?
Yeah, well, it does what it says in the tin, to be fair. I think that it's possible that Franklin Hall will return as Graviton, although that's a bit of a obscure reference, even for fans of the show. Hey, remember this guy you saw in one episode of the show? He's back.
I've got to be honest, I'd need to Google him in order to remember.
Yeah, it was the third episode, so you could just rewatch it. It's actually not a bad episode, as I recall. I haven't seen it in a long time, but yeah. Basically what happens is he falls into his own substance, and then there's a post-credit scene where you see his hand reaching out at the end, implying that he's become Graviton. But he was kind of above Agents, or he was above Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. pay grade in terms of power level at that point. Now they've got Inhumans and stuff, it's all to play for, but he is one of the more powerful beings in the Marvel Universe, in the comics anyway.
I will take your word for it.
Yes. He's I don't think that's what's going to happen though, because it's too obscure. I think Daisy will have something to do with the end of the world, whether it be her or whether it be someone else with a similar power set or whatever else. I don't know, and I'm excited to find out.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, what are your thoughts on the whole time loop concept, and how they've executed it so far? I think they've managed to do a good job of kind of highlighting that everything is going to happen the way it did happen before. Like the Elena ×2 conversation was quite interesting because she was like, I've heard all these words before, and she flip-flops between, maybe it can change too, nah, it can't, just like enjoy the time you have left with Mac, and it's all hopeless.
How do we know this isn't the first loop?
Well, that's the paradox, isn't it? There is no first loop.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. I mean, it's like her line is, I'm saying the words, I realise that I heard them when I was standing there.
Yeah.
And you think, okay. But we don't know how many times this has gone round. It's not like there's a character there going, oh my god, I can't believe this has happened again and again. But you know that they go back, you know that they end up on the plane again and right back at the beginning. And you even know that Yo-Yo at that point will zip off knowing that she's about to get captured by Cassius. That's what I don't quite get, is if she's had this conversation, it's her when May and that's going, we've got to work with them, we've got to stay hidden, and she goes, no, I'm going to go off, and off she goes and gets captured, knowing that she's going to get captured.
Well, there's the unexplained side of the paradox as well, where characters know what's going to happen, but try and change it anyway, and it's the act of trying to change it that therefore causes it. So what would have happened if they never knew about it? What choice would they have made if they didn't know about it? But the problem with time loops is you risk the characters having no agency within the plot, and I don't think that's happened here, in fairness. I actually think that each of the characters, they're making choices as if they didn't know what was going on. This is what Coulson would do in this situation. This is what Elena does in this situation. This is how Mac behaves in this situation. It just so happens that this is how he always behaves in this situation, and it just loops round and round and round. But it's not like the future knowledge is making them think differently in any way. You know,
no, I think you're right there. It's not, and for a large portion, they don't know that they're in a time loop either. So the decisions that they've made haven't been affected by it whatsoever.
And then every decision they're making is ignoring the time loop anyway, because they're all about, we need to go back in time and change this. And the thing is, you've even got the attempts to prevent it, such as Daisy saying, "I'll stay here. If I'm here, I can't destroy the world." Valid. Yes. And then Coulson's like, "No, I'm going to knock you out and bring you with us." You know, and it's so this is a choice that Coulson makes because he's an emotional being who's connected to Daisy in a very profound kind of fatherly way. But he knows rationally, he knows that the world might end if she comes with them. But I guess arrogantly he thinks, "Nah, I'll find a way to fix that in the future," you know, or his future. So that's the thing. Coulson still makes that decision, even though it's counter to the decision that would potentially save them all. You know, sacrifice Daisy, everyone's fine. Potentially.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many points. I mean, even the sort of ill-fated murder attempt to try and prevent it, you think, if that happened, would that stop the loop? Maybe it won't. I mean, we won't really find out until, let's face it, probably the last or the second last episode of the season, whether they prevent it or not. Yeah,
unless they do this thing where they're like, "Oh no, it's like that thing that they said at that point." You know, oh no, it's all happening just according to the way it's supposed to happen. I think that's going to happen a few times over the next few episodes.
So yeah, I think there will be some of those obvious scenes going, "Oh my god, look, it's just like this drawing, or just like this phrase that she said back then," and oh no, it's all coming true. It's all coming true right up until the last minute. I mean, where we have seen examples of that, and for part of the Kneel Before podcast drinking game, we saw that a lot, was during The Flash, where you're getting, oh, it's all happening exactly as this thing said it would happen. Oh no, it means we can't prevent it. So we've seen things like this before. There's really obvious tropes to do. There's a few different bits and pieces that they could do. Hopefully they go the path less travelled, but you never know.
And, of course, Robin will be there.
Yes.
Presumably, anyway. She's in that facility with Enoch, I guess. So will Enoch be back? I liked Enoch.
Maybe, yeah.
With his flat delivery of everything. I liked that.
At first, the character I didn't like very much. I think mainly because I thought, oh, this is a bit of a cop-out of what I thought it was going to be from the end of the last season, the character from the end of the last season, but I grew to really like him. I thought there was some really funny lines. The bit where he's saying, oh, this plan won't work, the chances are, it's 1,000,000 chances to 1 kind of thing, and then going, at the very end, a very sound plan indeed. I just thought it was in the very flat, like you say, flat delivery. Great.
And it was weird, like, May's hatred of him. He was like, shut up, metal man. He's like, actually, I'm mostly plastic. And, the actor, Joel Stoffer, I think his name is, he was very good at that sort of robotic but almost passionate delivery. It was that almost... It's almost like having Data around, from Star Trek, for those who don't know who Data is. It's the kind of... he has no emotion, but there is some attempt at mimicking the emotion in his voice, at least. That's that very subtle... that's a very subtle performance that stops him just being a speaking clock.
Yeah, there's still, there's not emotion in his performance, but there is, it is there still. I get what you're saying.
And the funniest thing about the present day stuff that will be coming is there'll be 2 Fitzies, although one of them's in like cryosleep.
Oh, that's true.
That's one way to change the future. Just go wake the other one up. Different day already.
And start telling them things that are going to happen.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, okay. It's an option. It's an opt-out option.
Yeah, although it would be one of those... I could see them doing it where they wake the other Fitz up and they've got 2 Fitzies for a while, and then he puts himself in cryosleep or something like that again, and it's like, oh dear. It's all happening as it did before. And that's the kind of thing they could do. They could try to keep subverting expectations like that and then keep building up the tension by having stuff keep playing out the way that it did before. So that's why I'm thinking that flashbacks or flash forwards to what happens following the destruction of Earth might be interesting, because they can talk about the stuff that we'll then see in the main show.
I suppose so, yeah. You just hope it doesn't come down to, we put a note in Fitz's pocket and he'll arrive, and if Enoch's still there, surely they could just tell him.
Yeah, well, Enoch does bugger off at some point with Fitz. I don't know whether... It's not established whether he spends the 75 years in space or not.
Well, you'd think he would leave at some point, yeah.
But he did promise to look after Robin and her mother as well. So he has to get all that in place.
But then you would think... in the future we'd be able to go, now here's exactly what happens. It turns out it wasn't Daisy, it was, you know.
So he has to leave before the destruction of Earth.
Yeah.
And maybe by the time they get back to the present, he's already put his, caring mechanism in place and has buggered off.
Well, the caring mechanism you would think be S.H.I.E.L.D. or Coulson and May and all that. Because you know that she's with them when the Zephyr crashes. Yeah,
although you don't know if they return at the moment that Fitz left or not.
Well, it seems like as time was moving on in the future, time was moving at the same pace, parallel, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
That's what it seemed like to me.
Yeah, although with Fitz, is it about a year or something like that? He's cutting about?
Yeah, it was like 9 months or something like that. I can't remember exactly. Yeah.
Like 6 months or so, yeah. I don't know. But also, in fact, it's 2nd of March it returns, so that's something to look forward to. The time loop is confusing. I was sitting there writing reviews about it, just racking my brains, trying not to muddle up my wording, and don't know that it succeeded some of the time, but I did think of several ways that it makes sense if the loop preserves itself, and it almost doesn't make sense to change it because it does shatter their time travel rules. But they have to change it because Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. doesn't exist in a vacuum. It exists in a widespread cinematic universe that kind of depends on an Earth being intact for its summer movies.
Yes. That would be an essential.
Yeah. Imagine you get to I don't know, whatever the next Spider-Man film, and it starts off and it's like a post-apocalyptic wasteland, and he's just fighting those roach creature things.
Spider-Man in the lighthouse.
Yeah, it would be different, fair enough, but kind of want to see that film now.
Well, you'd like to see just a shortcut, wouldn't you? Even just a few scenes.
Yeah, why not? What did you think of Cassius as a villain?
I think his introduction was really good. I think he was... I'm trying to think of the right way of describing him, but sort of like quietly menacing. You know, when you're first introduced to him, he's sort of sitting in his... it wasn't sandstone, what's it? Limestone place, speaking very softly, doing the thing, and you're like, is this guy going to be the main villain? Surely he's not the main villain. But it turns out he kind of was. It was very good. Yeah, I liked him. I really did.
Yeah, I liked him. I don't know why I laughed there. It was just a delayed reaction to the limestone hut kind of thing. But I liked Cassius as well, the kind of menacing tone, and I also like the fact that he rules out fear completely. No one respects him. No one would respect him. He's just a snivelling loser, essentially. But he's managed to create this situation where he is in charge because people are afraid of him because he controls them with devices and could kill them just by pressing a button. And that's kind of... And that's kind of evident when his brother shows up. His brother's like, yeah, no one's impressed with this crap. The fights that he puts on, it's almost like the other well-to-do people that show up are kind of laughing at him a bit.
Well, that I liked. I liked the reveal when it comes to the sort of bidding war and everyone is suddenly in trying to gussy up to him. But before that point, everyone sort of looked down on him.
Yeah.
The only people that are looking up to him are, like you say, the folk that are sort of underneath his thumb. Everyone else is like, yeah, you're in exile. I'm not in exile. I'm here because it's very important and everyone will see all the important work I'm doing. No, you're in exile. No one likes you. You know, it's that.
Yeah. And he has that codependent relationship with Sonara, his like personal assassin woman person.
I thought you were going to say personal assistant there for a second.
Well, she pretty much is. Yeah, she's like, she does all the stuff for him. She goes and kills people for him. I presume she writes reports on the deaths that she's caused and stuff. But they talk about the relationship being codependent because they helped each other at some point. And obviously when Daisy kills her, with the help of Deke, there's some real anger there. You know, it's like he's really lost something. And it's at that point where his entire operation is crumbling anyway, because they've destroyed the supply of inhuman blood and Terrigen crystals. The slaves have been freed. It's not looking good for Cassius at that point.
That's true.
So it's kind of like that. Yeah, he's like this, the emperor who's the defeated emperor kind of thing. You know, he has no subjects, he has no loyalty, he has nothing left, and that's ultimately why he just decides, I'm just going to take this strength-enhancing drug and beat the crap out of everyone.
Yeah, I sort of liked that at the end. He just went, you know, he's talking to her. I can't remember what the name of the character that's with him's called. He's going, we're hatching a plan as he's talking to the corpse. And you're thinking, yeah, the guy has now just truly lost his mind. He's lost his ability to breed in humans. His fail-safe plan to blow up the rest of the humans is gone. His little fiefdom is being destroyed. He can't go back home because he killed his brother. So it's like, yeah, I like the fact that he's like, well, if I'm not getting anything, then no one's getting anything. I'm just going to go out with a bang. And
then even at the end, he still wants to live up to his father's expectations of him as well. For some reason, you don't find out who his father is, although I suspect his father will turn up in the present day set portion of the series. Because it's talking about giving a whole world to rule rather than the patchwork planet that exists at that point. And they mention something, he's like king of a dead planet and things like that as well. You know, that's where he's looked down on. It's something like that. I can't remember the exact words, but it's very poetic, and it's prince of a dead world or something like that. I can't remember the exact word, but it was good. I think he's an interesting villain, one of the more interesting ones they've had, because is literally resources that makes him formidable. And once you take away the resources, there's not much to him. I mean, he was strong enough. He was strong enough to, hurt Mac until Simmons got her own back by deafening him, and then Mac got let loose with a shotgun axe.
Oh, the shotgun axe is awesome.
My favourite returning character.
I liked the fact that Simmons put the little sort of worm thing in his ear. I thought that was a neat little bit that they
justice.
did. Yeah, definitely that. And I can't remember who the character is that comments on the shotgun axe. Going, oh, shotgun axe. Now I get it. I think it's
Flint.
It might have been Flint. It might have been. I didn't want to say it was Flint because I couldn't remember. I think it was Flint. I think you're right, but yeah.
What was it? Yeah, doesn't that make it harder to shoot people? It makes it easier to stab people.
Yeah.
But yeah, the shotgun axe, it's the most impractical weapon you might think of. It's like a close-range weapon that becomes an even closer range weapon. But that's Mac for you. He's very much a gung-ho sort of guy.
I think I'd put it very high on my list of zombie apocalypse weapons. The shotgun axe.
Yeah,
it's the kind of thing I'd expect to see on an episode of The Walking Dead.
If anyone ever still watched The Walking Dead, of course.
Yes, those people do exist, though. Yeah.
Do you still watch The Walking Dead? Wow.
I still do. I'm a glutton for punishment. Have you not found out the number of TV shows that I watched that I should have given up years ago?
Well, there may not be a Neil Before Pod Walking Dead conversation because no one watches it.
Yeah, it'll just be me in a room going, hello? 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 Anyone here? Anyone here for the podcast? The Walking Dead? Yeah, it's still on. Yeah. Are you going to join? No, you're not going to join the podcast. Hello? Anyone?
It'd be great. Yeah.
Yeah, lasted more than one season.
Yeah, unfortunately. Yeah. So Cassius, good villain. You had Grill for a couple of episodes. He was a good antagonistic force to have around. It's very much I'm just going to electrocute everyone with my little control panel here until I get crushed by a rock.
Yeah, it's one of those going for anyone that doesn't like their boss kind of thing, isn't it?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I can imagine there's some people out there that would love to have the little electrocution button for their staff.
And let's face it, like you just said, in some offices, if that was legal, it would happen.
Well, we're not allowed to use the electric shock collars on dogs anymore. Come here, staff. Come here. Come here, boy.
It's like we are below the dogs. Fantastic. I liked Flint as a character as well. I think they could have done a bit more with him, and they could have maybe cast a better actor. But other than that, he was fine. He was very plot focused. They needed him for the plot, but they did get a bit of father-son action in there with him and Mac.
Yeah, they got a little bit of the father-son thing going on and the protection bit from Mac. Like you say, it was kind of MacGuffin-y for some of it. It's like, oh, he's the thing that we need to make the rest of the plot now work. Because up until that point, we've had no way of putting things together and doing this, but now we've got the character that can handle it, so there we go. Yeah.
That was lucky.
That was convenient. Imagine if you had only got the power to manipulate cheese. It wouldn't have worked, would it?
Yeah,
rubbish.
Someone out there must have that power.
Yep.
Yeah, the kind of rubbish I'd get if I was a human. I mean, human, I can move cheese.
I can move cheese with the power of my mind.
With the power of my hand.
A hand, yeah.
I can pick up cheese. That's all I can do. Great. Great. Yeah, it'd be amazing. What else happened this season? So you had the off-format episode. That was cool. Just all sorts of stuff. I think sometimes the plot moved a bit too quickly, and other times it moved a bit too slowly. My least favourite episode of the season was where they spent the entire episode trying to get the Zephyr to lift off, which is the penultimate one.
Yeah, I thought, the season's been building up so well, and then there was suddenly this episode where they went, oh, hang on, it's not the mid-season yet, and they just sort of seemed to stop and go, oh, we kind of got too far ahead of ourselves here, and then pulled it all back in. And like you say, it was just sitting there waiting for the Zephyr to take off, and a lot of arguing about how they were going to do it, and was it going to work, was it not going to work? No.
Yeah. Well, that did have some good character moments, but it didn't move quickly enough for me either. It just kind of stalled. The fact that the plane still flies is amazing, but...
Yeah, I'm not going to try and break any of the signs that they do in this season down whatsoever. No. It is complete... Yeah, it's okay, there's atmosphere on the surface, but the atmosphere's there because of the gravitonium that's in the Zephyr, and there's these gravity storms, and it's going to pick up, but it'll drift round inconveniently towards the lighthouse, we think. There.
No, they just needed the gravity storm for lift, and then the engines would...
Yeah, and then the engines will work, because the engines
almost like they,
are powered by hope. And
it's like in Star Trek Beyond with, in order to make this ship take off, we'll throw it off a mountain.
Yes, yeah. There's a bit of a gravity assist, yeah.
Yeah, that's it. We need to move, yeah.
Same way I jump-started my van the other week. I just sort of
drove
rolled it downhill. Drove it off a cliff, yeah.
The engine's working. Uh-oh.
we rolled it downhill and we managed to start the engine. So it was, it's the exact same way I imagine with the Zephyr and the new thruster collaborative type thing that they've built.
Yes, that fits built in the past but also the future.
Yes.
Oh, so confusing.
And he built it in the past because he had already seen it in the future.
Yes.
So now he knows it works.
Yeah, that's it. Chicken and the egg.
Yes.
It's that paradox.
So hilarious. It turns out if they had all died in the future, they would have saved the past. Roll credits.
Yes.
And then Thanos would destroy it anyway.
Yeah, Thanos
turns out it was nothing to do with them.
Thanos turns up a week later and that's the end of it. The end of all life as we know it.
Turned out Medusa did it by accident.
Yeah. With her hair.
Yep.
She just crushes the earth with her hair. Maybe Black Bolt was snoring. Maybe that's what caused it.
Black Bolt sneezed.
He has a cold.
He has a cold. He got the flu. He spent so long on the moon. He's never got immune to the cold. And the world ended.
That's how it costs. That's what causes it. That's my theory. Black Bolt has the flu and sneezes the Earth out of existence.
Why not?
They might as well bring the Inhumans in, why not? Like, they're not doing anything else. They're never going to be seen again otherwise.
It's a fan theory section.
Yeah, crackpot theories. Bring out your crackpot theories here. This is it.
Roll up.
I don't really have many crackpot theories other than somehow they'll find a way to save the planet because they have to, because it's a shared universe. It's like, at least if... and here's one of the pitfalls of a shared universe. If you've got Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. existing on its own, although it can't because they're an organisation in a universe that's known for Marvel characters without any Marvel characters. That would be very strange. That would be a paradox in itself.
Yeah, I think they're definitely going to be back. They're going to save the world at some point. I think Deke will turn back, is my little theory. I think he's transferred over with them. I am looking forward to seeing what has happened while they've been away to the whole political situation. As much as I said I was glad that they were sort of in the future and in space to get away from it, I'm interested in the little snippets that we got during the Fitz episode. The boss that just decides to wipe two of our own agents out of existence because she's peeved. There's something, obviously there's something going on there.
Yeah.
So I'm kind of looking forward to finding out what the hell they've been up to. What's this that sort of appeared while S.H.I.E.L.D.'s been dismantled?
And Dove Cameron's going to be in it. She's like some Disney actress. That's a big deal, apparently. I have no idea who the hell she is. But the promo for the next episode says also featuring Dove Cameron. So I don't know who the hell she is.
I would be Googling it in the background if I was being dishonest, but I don't know either.
Dove Cameron is an American actress and singer, best known for playing a dual role as both title characters in the Disney Channel teen sitcom Liv and Maddie, and playing Mal, daughter of Maleficent.
Oh, I still don't know who she is.
She has an Instagram, if anyone's interested.
Of course she's got an Instagram. All the cool people are on Instagram.
Of course she has an Instagram. She's 22.
There we go. Yeah.
Let's see
all
if
us
I've
young
seen her
cool
yet.
people are on Instagram.
I'm not on Instagram.
That's what I said.
That's
All
'cause
us young cool people are on Instagram.
Yeah, I'm not cool. I never pretended to be cool. She has voiced Gwen Stacy in Ultimate Spider-Man versus the Sinister Six in 2016.
Oh, well, there you go.
She's in Lego Star Wars: The Freemaker Adventures as Becky Smoochenbacher, whoever that is.
Well, she's done a lot then. I kind of look forward to seeing her appear then.
And her
She's done
character in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. is called Ruby Hale, which is the General's daughter, I think. It's General Hale, isn't it? It's Hale. I don't know what rank she is, but it is Hale in the Pharma episode.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, there we go. I look forward to seeing her. Why not?
I don't not look forward to seeing her, I suppose. I have no idea. But Dove Cameron is in it, and it's a big deal. So if you're a Dove Cameron fan, this is the show for you. Not this podcast. She's never going to be on here. But
Oh, don't say that.
not that she's unwelcome, but she's got better things to do.
Yeah, she's got a lot. She's got a lot on.
Yeah, she's like a Disney child.
She's just not in any of the stuff that we currently watch. I mean, maybe once I drop The Walking Dead, I'll be able to pick it up.
You'll be able to watch all this other stuff.
Yeah, I can watch her back catalogue.
Yeah, that's it. Coulson's illness. I theorised in my last review that could be the penance for accepting the Ghost Rider thing. Because remember how he said there would be consequences to that.
Ah, okay.
It was never brought up again because they're in the future. These could be the consequence.
And there's also, I mean, the thing that brought Coulson back in the first place was like a Kree thing, wasn't it?
That's right, yeah.
So, could it be some interaction with all that sort of stuff? Something that one of the Kree has brought with him? Potentially? Infection-y, disease-y type thing? Or even that stuff that Cassius had at the end? Mm-hmm. That chemical, because didn't they get attacked by a guy with that chemical? Was that Coulson?
Yeah, although the implication is that he's been suffering with it for a little while, because you see the bit where where his shirt comes slightly open, and he just and he hides it. That suggests to me that he's had it for a while and has been keeping it quiet. Because if he just got it, he'd be like, "Oh, what's this?" Hey May, have a look at this. What do you think this is? It's almost as if he has he knows what that thing is. But because why is he keeping it from his family, essentially? Otherwise, if he doesn't know what it is. And the only thing I can think of is that it's the consequences of him being Ghost Rider for a minute or two. The only thing I can think of.
Could be. Let's go for that.
They have all the consequences from last season to deal with anyway. The post-framework stuff. You mentioned the political situation. They've got all this to deal with, and they've kind of put it on hold. And it's quite interesting how throughout the season you had everyone just putting their emotional issues on hold. And it was like May said that she just wanted to go to her bed. Like, that was all she wanted. I think it was as simple as that. It was something really innocuous. I think it was her own bed. She just wants to sleep in her own bed. That's it. Nothing else. It's like the simple pleasures that you crave.
Well, I mean, the end of the last season was pretty much they went there to have pie, and then they knew they were all going to get taken in at the end.
Yeah.
We're all going to get arrested. We're all going to get taken away. So let's go. Let's enjoy our last chat and everything together, and then we can go.
Yeah. So we'll see how that all pans out. It'll be S.H.I.E.L.D. on the run again, won't it? We've had that for like 4 seasons. Yeah. So I don't think I've got anything else. I can't think of anything else that happened in the season that needs to be discussed. Unless you can.
No, I mean, the only bit I thought about, and I forgot to mention it when you were talking about the character earlier on, was sort of Shania's power. I don't know if it works the same way as like Yondu's arrow.
Oh, Sonara's.
Or is that... It's an arrow, sorry. Yeah. The two sphere things, and she's just
balls,
flinging about. Yeah, the balls that she's flinging about.
Yeah, it's similar, I suppose.
I didn't know. It was like, is that like not a mutant ability, but I know the Kree sometimes have abilities and stuff. Or is that a technological thing, or is that, I don't know.
For Yondu, it was definitely technological because he had the mohawk.
Yeah, because he had the sort of the mohawk thing. So that's why I'm sort of comparing it to that, because it's someone that's sort of manipulating stuff that way. But I didn't know
it could have
if
been similar, and they're both Kree, so why not?
Yeah.
Yeah. Fair enough. Yeah, that was quite cool. I'd forgotten about the...
I thought it was just like quite a cool power together, or something to make her stand out a little bit, because it must be tough now when they're sort of coming up and going, right, okay, we need someone with an ability. What ability can they have? Oh, let's go to the list. What's everyone else done? Okay, they've done that. Oh, rubbish. Right, okay, what are we left with? 2 ball bearings. Like that'll do.
Yeah, and the fighting that they did with her was really cool.
Yeah.
Although they skimped out on the 0G fight. They were floating for like a second and then fell. That was annoying.
To give them their credit, though, like you said at the beginning, some of the CGI they have done at the beginning of this season has been awesome.
Well,
some of the reveal shots,
beautiful.
The destroyed planet, the sort of asteroid field, some of the sort of ship flying stuff has been great looking. Absolutely brilliant stuff. I even quite liked the sort of title card thing that they made for it with the sort of split earth underneath it. I thought it looked quite neat. But I think some of the CGI stuff they did the beginning of this has been very, very good. So yeah, I'm definitely interested to see how they top that. Maybe this is the season where they flip it round the other way. They have a slightly cheaper second half. Hopefully not.
Well, I think the second half you'll be back to shield bases and whatever special effects they would normally use. So they'll get back to whatever's familiar for the show now. The 100th episode's coming up, and it's promised that it will be heartbreaking. We'll see if it's heartbreaking.
Is it a musical episode?
No, it is not. Not that I know of.
Damn.
Although I know that Chloe Bennett can sing. She was in Nashville. Do
you think it'll be an excuse for flashbacks episode?
Maybe they'll even have someone who's been in Marvel films turn up.
Oh.
I don't actually know. I haven't read any teasers that suggest that might be happening. But maybe Nick Fury will pop by to say hello.
Who have we got that's really cheap that we can drop in at the last minute?
Samuel L. Jackson. Chuck him in. Why not?
Yeah, we can get random Samuel L. cameo at the end.
Or they could just follow Robert Downey Jr. with a camera and pretend that he's an Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.
Superimpose him in.
Yeah, well, not even that. They would just follow him around with a camera. It's like, even behind the scenes on like Avengers 4, you can see the trailer in the background. There's loads of cameras everywhere. The big green screen that he's going to stand in front of in a minute,
I don't know. I have the horrible feeling it'll be some sort of excuse to do flashbacky stuff. It'll be like an interrogation or trying to debrief Coulson on what's happened or something, and it'll be a ton of flashbacks. Going, oh, right, let me take you back to the beginning.
I hope not, because the 100th episode should be a celebration.
I like a lot of these things. I hope they don't cheap out and do that. I hope they do something a bit different. I think it would be great if they could try and get some proper big guest stars in, or do something a bit, like you say, a big celebration. Try and bring back some people. Try and give them a good, a good birthday thing. But I think if there was anything massive, it probably would have been spoiled by now, to be honest.
Maybe, yeah. We'll soon find out. I can't remember when it actually is, but it's relatively soon. 5th season of 22 episode seasons is pretty much your 100th episode anyway, all the time. So, so it'll be sometime in the next couple of episodes, and I'm sure I'll love it. And I think the most sedate 100th episode I've ever seen was in Supernatural, where they stay in a hotel room that's room 100. And that's all they do. The rest of it's just a normal episode. The 200th episode was great, though. And I'm sure their 300th episode will be great as well. In season 15, which isn't too far away. Oh, man. This isn't the Supernatural podcast. Right, so I don't have anything else to cover. I think we've discussed the half season as much as possible without reviewing every single episode, which I've already done. So check it out. read my reviews of all 10 episodes. Although it's only 9 reviews because I did the first 2 as one-er because they aired at the same time. So there. Have you got anything else? Any thoughts to leave us on?
No, I think I've said everything incoherently as normal. So, I think I'm looking forward to it. I'm interested to see what they say. Like I say, the majority of the times, the second half of the season has always been, in my opinion, better than the first. So if it jumps up from here, then it'll be a spectacular end to the season. Yeah,
and possibly the series if it doesn't get renewed. But let's hope it gets renewed. I quite like the show. I'd like to see it stick around.
Yeah. Please renew it.
Yeah.
And while we're on it, UK TV, stop banding it about the schedules like a weird wacky yo-yo.
UK TV distributors, if you're listening, then whatever. Yeah.
This is your warning.
This is it. This is your final warning.
Yeah.
Yeah, mostly because we have no power.
Tilt. We will use the massive clout of this podcast. And it is a big clout. Take our words for it.
Yeah, that's it. Clout. We have all sorts of clout.
We have 4 different secret bases for hiding our clout, and you will never find them all.
And Dove Cameron actively ignores our requests for interviews. That's how much clout we've got. She knows massive. We exist and avoids us.
It is.
But, it's like any good stalker. They know we exist. That's enough. Yeah. Now, we're not stalking Dove Cameron. I only found out who she was today. So, yeah. So this is the beginning of me stalking Dove Cameron. I think
everyone will ask, when did it begin? Oh, it was in that podcast it began. Excellent.
That was it. Yeah. Okay, so without further ado, I think we should go back through our monolith and then start this podcast all over again, because that's what happens. We're stuck in a time loop. The rest of our lives just talking about the first half of Season 5 of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.
And through the loop we should go.
Yes, back through the loop. Hello, and welcome to another super secret edition of Kneel Before Pod. I'm your host Craig McKenzie, and it's time for us to take you back into the Marvel Cinematic Universe to talk about Marvel's Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Season 5. The show went on a brief hiatus recently at the conclusion of the opening arc of the season, and we're here to talk about it. Joining me at the cheaper end of the Marvel Cinematic Universe is Agent Chris. Only kidding. This podcast isn't caught in a time loop, at least not right now. That was our discussion in the first half of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Season 5. Thanks to YouTuber nstens1117 for the supplied music, and if you like what you heard, then please do subscribe on iTunes, YouTube, or any major podcasting app. And then please join us on the next Kneel Before Pod.